Well, g'day everyone. It's the Two Ordinary Cops. We are back once again for episode 65 this time. Damo, mate, how are you?
Holy bloody hell, 65 episodes, mate. Man, I thought they'd have
Unbelievable.
kicked us off by now. I honestly do.
Mate, and people have listened to every single episode.
Yeah, no, God bless them. No, it's good. Good to hear. And we're getting some good feedback. Like I get random feedback off people just for strange things. Like it might just be that I haven't seen them for a long time and I touch base and they go, "Oh, really enjoying the podcast." Like, wow.
Yeah.
You're listening to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what we're trying to tell you is get in touch with us. Like, let us know because we don't know this stuff. Me
Yeah.
and Schultzy just get together and record every week. Like, get in touch with us. We're not. We're certainly not celebrities. Get in touch with us and let us know what you want to hear about
That's
because
right.
we'll throw our 2 cents in. And the beauty of it is we're fairly well connected. If we don't know, we'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's right. And we're just two knockabout blokes.
yeah, no, there's certainly nothing flash. Hence the name of the podcast, Schultzy. Yeah. So
Uh,
anyway, mate, before we go on, I was going to throw to you for some shout outs, but I had a little bit of sad news last week. My old granddad, Mick Barb, he was 80, nearly he's 88. He was turning 89 in August. He has had touches of dementia and just a few dramas for the last probably 18 months, 2 years, but he was really crook for the last 2 weeks, and he died very quietly on about 10:30 in the morning on Friday the 4th of April. So a bit of a shout out to my old granddad. He was a huge part, especially in my early childhood. We lived in St George. He was from St George in Queensland. Um, Up until only a few years ago, he still lived out in St George, and yeah, it was all about the bush. It's funny. I teach firefighting now, and he was the one who sort of taught us when you drive out and just on as the sun's going down, you can throw matches into the paddock and burn off that grass. It'll come back nice and green. If you do it late in the day, it'll go out as the sun goes down. So he he was a real inspiration back in the day, and even through life. I mean, he was a pretty hard man. He wasn't perfect, that's for sure, but no one is. But
yeah.
he was bloody good to his grandkids. I'll give him that. And I really look back with fond memories of Grandad. So we're gonna have a funeral in Toowoomba on Tuesday week. So by the time this gets released, it'll be about 4 days away. So we'll be in Toowoomba on that date. And yeah, so anyway, shout out Mick Arthur Andrew, his name was, but he's been called Mick his whole life. So Mick Barb, Vale Mick.
Yep, mate, and
Mm.
yeah, rest in peace. It's something like you mentioned there. The one thing I've found the old generation, like you look at people like your granddad, your father, my father, your mum and my mum, and there's so much experience there that seems to get lost. And one thing I'm happy about in this podcast is a lot of people have contacted us, especially in emergency services and all that, where they see like either a dead body or they get um, you know, what they just get faced with this sort of trauma, and they said listening to us and what we have to say has helped them through it. So, and it's just we're trying to pass on our experience from how we handled it, and we didn't handle it perfectly, but it's I think so a problem shared is a problem halved, and I think there's a lot of people that got in contact and said thanks for just helping us out and giving us a different perspective. So
Normalization, mate. Normalization of a non what feels like not a normal situation. So, but
yeah,
yeah, it's funny that we're talking about my old granddad and now experience and passing that sort of thing on. Um, I think I'm very similar age to what he was when I was born. I think he might have been a couple of years. He might have been your age when I was born. So
all
we're
right.
old enough to be granddads, mate. I think we might act like we might pass on a bit of knowledge, like couple of old granddads. Might get cranky. We might every now and then start having to bark to get off my lawn and stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
mate, what's the story today? We got a bit of a subject, or what's the go?
Yes, mate. Well, we've got a couple of things. First, before I go into, I've got a couple of shout outs. A few people have actually messaged us or messaged us on on our Two Ordinary Cops page, which is really good. And then they've actually that's just putting comments on, and some have messaged us, so that's really good. But mate, before we go on, and I do keep up to up to date with the media and all that sort of thing and stuff that goes on around policing. And there's a lot of focus on policing and all that sort of stuff at the moment. And look, one of my, I suppose, passions when I was in the job was working for the Family and Domestic Violence Unit. And I see politicians pushing at the moment the fact that police now, they're giving them powers so they can put a domestic violence order in place, which goes for 12 months without having to be reviewed by a magistrate. Now, look, my experience, I've a lot of experience in domestic violence. I work really behind the scenes, even with the courts and so on and so forth. I've prosecuted a number of DV cases or breach DVOs, and also, applications for DVOs. That is, you cannot fast track DV. It will not solve the problem. So, to the politicians thinking this shit up, pull your head out of your ass and look at what the problem is. You need people to spend the time investigating and talking to these people. Just by fast tracking this stuff for the police, honestly, I can just see it's going to be handed out like confetti. So there's my rant, mate. I've said it.
Yeah, mate. Oh, the old DV. It's just a shit show. It
Yeah.
really is. It just consumes so much time. It's so complicated. It's not simple. It's
Yep.
well, people should why don't they just make the complaint and get them locked up because they still like the person? It's bloody. It's not simple.
No, no, that's right.
No,
And
it's
but
bloody hard work. And seriously, I'm very fortunate. I'm very privileged in a way. I've never been in a family where DV has been a part of the family. So I've never lived it. I've been to thousands of domestics. I've seen all spectrum of that, but that's from a policing point of view. That's not living and breathing it. So when it comes to the experience of domestic violence, I just can't relate to it. I really
yeah,
can't. I used to turn up and collect evidence, and if there was evidence there, we'd throw someone before the court, and that was my level of experience, mate. I've never been subject to or the perpetrator of domestic violence or
yeah.
witness to as a child. It just didn't occur.
No, no, mate. That's right. Mate, well, I saw a fair bit of it when I was growing up in at Torres Straits. There's quite a bit of that. A lot of my friends, and also even myself. Me myself. I had a very volatile relationship, which I think that's probably why I was good in that role, because I kind of understood where a lot
Yeah.
of people were coming from. But
Well, and that's pretty brave of you too, mate. Because as a male victim of DV, like that's bloody yeah. I remember you talking about that. I mean, you're a fairly hardy sort of bloke, so you would
yep,
have pushed through it. But the fact of the matter was, you would have cared greatly for her, and you wouldn't have made complaints against her to the police or anything like that. So
yep. Yeah,
yeah,
mate, and I mean, it's one of those things, and the problem is when you're younger, especially in your younger years, you kind of, I suppose, accept a lot more than what you really should, and so I understand where the victims are coming from, to a certain extent. And look, I'm no angel. There's no two ways about it, but it's so complicated, and
yeah,
I mean, I will. I'm just going to mention one other thing. You're going to hate me for this, but they're also looking at making domestic violence a crime, so it's actually punishable. It's going to be what do you call it? Law. Now, the only problem with that, everybody commits domestic violence, so you're just going to get just as many women as men locked up, because it does go both ways, unfortunately. Not all the time. And, well, so domestic violence does not have boundaries. It doesn't have an age restriction, it doesn't have a gender restriction. So you've just got to
no.
be aware of that. And imagine trying to investigate someone for committing domestic violence.
Well, it needs to be fairly well defined. I mean, I know it is defined already fairly thoroughly, but oh, geez, once again, mate, it's all DV. It's all just
Yep.
I never enjoyed any of it. It was just I. The only thing I can my personal experience of domestic violence is just shitloads of paperwork, not work in the field, pulling someone away from someone else. It
Yep.
was checks and balances of quality control on computer systems and checking and checking and checking and doing audits. And that was my experience of DV, especially towards the end of my career as a supervisor.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
it was checks and checks and checks and checks. And it's funny that we send two really junior police to the actual practicalities of dealing with the offence, and then we use about 5 different levels of experienced police officers to audit what those poor little buggers did. instead of just sending shitloads of people to the actual problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's not to worry. Anyway, mate, you're getting
Yeah.
me. You're removing my morale. DV, bloody DV.
Well,
What are we
mate,
on today?
let's liven it up.
Yeah,
Let's go back to the some of the people that have given us shout outs
yeah.
and look, a couple put comments on. So Melissa, she loved the podcast. Took her a while to finally get up to speed with us all with all the episodes. But keep it up and great work, and looking forward to the next one. So that's I'd keep those coming in, because it's really nice to know that well, one, we're being listened to, but also two, you like them.
I want to hear someone rag us. I want someone to rag us out.
Hey,
Like, write in and just give it to us. Yeah, pair of dickheads, don't know what you're talking about. I want someone to do that. And that'll be a great yarn. We
go
have
on.
to send your phone. If you're going to do that, give us your phone number and we'll ring you and we'll
Yep,
get involved. We'll have you on the potty and you can just rag us on the podcast. That'll
that's
be
right.
epic.
Yep, there's a challenge. Yep.
Yeah.
And so for all those people, actually, I'll put one of those shorts on YouTube, because that apparently is the ones that really hate police. They
Yeah,
send
yeah, no,
they send to us.
send us your phone number. We'll ring you. We're not going to abuse you. We won't harass you, but we'll
Yep.
definitely ring you and get you on there. And the
Mhm.
beauty, mate, we're not serving coppers. You want to carry on like a goose? We'll give it straight back.
Yeah, that's right.
Bloody good. I reckon that'd be proper entertaining, Schultzy. Yeah,
So yeah, and another one, Nathan Hunter, loving the podcast. He sent through, so that was the comments, mate. Which is, it's really nice to get those comments on there. Actually, I should also give a shout out. Um, First of all, I'm just going to have to do a bit of jiggery pokery here to that's a Matt James saying
I was going to
to
say I've never heard that before. There you go.
But what I usually get is so there's a blokes versus black dog, and there's quite a few people I think that listen to this that are on there, and all that sort of stuff. And there's one of the main guys in that approves all the stuff. When I, because I do post a lot
What, the
about,
Facebook page, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So um, he always gives me a shout out saying, thanks, thanks for putting it on, and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but I see it every bloody week. So annoying. I'll come back to it,
Oh,
but
that's all right. Yep, we'll
yep.
sort it. But we do have a fellow who's asked a couple of questions, don't we, mate?
Well, we have, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
mate. So first of all, we go to Nathan. Nathan loves the podcast.
Yeah.
He's looking at joining the police. Currently working at McDonald's, and so he gets isolated for 5 hours counting stuff. So he listens to us during that time,
No, good on
which
him.
is which I'm glad he can actually count. He was actually quite. I think you said you mentioned something how our police computer system. That Macca's was more advanced, and he was quite surprised.
Oh, mate, the fact you can walk in and the kid can use a touchscreen in Macca's and order a bloody McFeast.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
But mate, now we'll move on to, and I think it's Neppy.
Neppy or Neffy, I'm
That's
not
how you
sure. Yeah,
pronounce it.
that's okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not the best at pronouncing names, but I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
But loves a podcast, and basically he's applied for the Northern Territory Police, and they start in the academy soon, so that's
Yep.
good. Basically, his question, and we'll go with your one first, mate. So he's heading out there with his partner. They've got a young family, 10, 8, and 5-year-olds. So it's just he wants a question. So any advice? Sorry,
No,
Damon.
no, no. Start there. So he's got advice on study techniques that
Okay,
may have helped you
yeah,
during the college, and that's
and
fair enough.
yeah. So, any advice on study techniques that may have helped you during the time of the college? So, I said I'm probably fairly good at that. You still breeze through the college. You've got a different way of
Oh, I
approaching
didn't breeze through. I had to work at it,
life.
I don't know. I'm a bit more theoretical. I can sort of remember theory and stuff like that. But I remember me and you used to sit at the front and study, and we used to smash it into our heads. Do you want to talk about the way you used to smash information into your skull in order to get through those exams?
Yeah. So what I used to like, what I started doing, and which was bad for me, I'm a very slow writer, but I thought if I write out the legislation, all that, I'll remember it. But then it was actually a very good friend of mine, I think, talking to you as well, Luke Hurley, and we'll give him a shout out.
Yeah,
Um, and he said to me, he said, "How did you? What were you good at school? How did you learn in school?" And I said, "I was really good with plays or reciting stuff like in front of a crowd and all that sort of thing." He said, "So learn legislation like you would a play. If you were going to go out and deliver it out in front of everybody, learn it like you were going to do that." And mate, I went from, I think it was probably about 12 hours study a week, or probably 20 hours study a week, to about 5 hours study a week. Probably not even that much. And I went from about 60% to between 80 and 90 on average. So, and that's just the way I learned. It just worked because all I did was recite it in my head. And, as soon as because that's the quickest way for me. And then when I got into the exam, I could just recite it off the top of my head. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, so that really, and look, that was my friends in the police helped me with that, and that was part of being part of the squad. That we're all looking out for each other and helping each other. And if I didn't get that advice, I probably wouldn't have made it through. I don't think.
No, so look, mate, that's actually a very, very clever thing what you said there. It's an excellent way to remember, and especially you got to remember, mate, we went through the college 18 years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't think they go and just go, you need to know this legislation, bang, 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 bang. These days, it's much, much more about you need to understand your powers in immediate situations, and you need to be able to find that legislation immediately. But you need to have a very good understanding of what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do on the ground.
Yep.
So to me, it used to be if we're looking for drugs or anything like that, it was reasonable grounds to suspect. So suspicion and belief are different levels. So you
Yep.
might suspect there's something there, but you don't believe. That's a lesser level of believe. So they're legal terms, and their actual English definitions don't necessarily outline what their legal terms are. So I used to remember legislation by going up powers of search and seizure, for example. So there's the famous one that we've all used 1,000 times in the Northern Territory, anyway. So Section 120C, Misuse of Drugs Act. So, or was it the Police Administration Act? I can't remember. I think it was Misuse of Drugs,
Yeah.
whatever it was. Anyway, so I think it was police administration.
No,
You could that was your powers for just search and seizure for dangerous drugs and also for any contraband stuff like that. So it used to be that any person in an aircraft, ship, train, or vehicle. So always remember aircraft, ship, train, or vehicle. I just remembered it. You rattle it off. So basically anything that moves in the air or on the ground or on
yep.
the water, aircraft, ship, train, or vehicle, and then they're all defined. So a vehicle moves on the ground, a train moves on rails, a ship moves on any kind of water, and an aircraft moves in the air. So you can stop that vehicle, you can search that vehicle, you can search all the occupants of the vehicle if you have reasonable grounds to suspect that there is on that vehicle a drug paraphernalia, blah 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 blah. So it used to be that you could just extract the information like that, and you'd remember that. I think
Yep.
it gets easier to remember the legislation down the track when you have to continually refer back to it when you're doing up briefs of evidence to present in court. But when you're at the college, I think a really good way to think of it would be talking about what works for you. Well, I have the beauty of hindsight, and I can look back through my career and go, when could I really remember this legislation? And I really remember it when I was teaching it and when I was applying it as a supervisor and making sure that my troops had covered off what they were trying to get across.
Yep.
And it's like, listen, I know that you had grounds to search that vehicle, but you need to outline, you need to detail the grounds. You haven't covered them enough. And said, I can sit here right now and cover that. We received an information report that said this, 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 this. So relating this all the way right back to the recruit level is that you need to sort of read through the legislation and then put yourself in the position of a police officer, which is a bit tricky,
Yep.
way down the track, arresting somebody for this stuff, and then going back through that legislation and
Definitely.
applying that. I mean, that you already have the knowledge, but applying that to your brief of evidence. And I think if you make it real like that, you go, well, hang on, we believed he had drugs. Well, why do we believe that? Because of information reports. So then that's where you learn your powers. So to me, it would be if you need to know information, especially the legislation that you do have to know almost verbatim is all that the stuff that we forever go back to, the old 127, 128, 129 Criminal Code Act, which is
Yep.
your justified use of force up to and including lethal force.
Yep.
Um, what you do there is you go through a situation, a scenario where you would be required to use lethal force. And then you run backwards through that in your mind and go, why was I allowed to do that? I know I was allowed to do that because he was about to kill me. So why exactly is that? What words allow you to do that? And
Yep.
that's where you sort of remember. So the big thing that you need to remember a lot of the time when you're learning legislation, and legislation's heavy stuff, it really is. Um, and I don't know if they still require that memory based sort of stuff. But yeah, to me, it was always remember what you need to know. Like if you're on the ground and you need to act immediately, you need to be able to know why you are allowed to act in the way that you are and why you are allowed to carry a firearm and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
look at it
mate,
related to the practicalities of policing.
that's a really good point because I became very very good at legislation the more I went through the police force because I'm a practical person. As I started to use it practically, it all made sense to me. And look, there's a couple of other things. I think also look for and or. Because it changes depending on which legislation you look at, and it can change the whole meaning of what you can and cannot do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So just one simple word change can change the direction it heads in. And mate, now correct me if I'm wrong. I believe under the Misuse of Drugs Act, a vehicle is considered a public place. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah, I believe so. Under yeah. So this is where your definitions. I haven't looked for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
from memory, yeah. So certainly a vehicle in a public place is a
Yep.
public place. Yeah. So that's where that 120C, a person, and the person may be an aircraft, ship, train, or vehicle. Yeah. So that's your reasonable grounds to search a person
Yep.
for drugs, and that's search without warrant. So obviously, search with a warrant means you've justified your grounds to the court
Yep.
and now you're going in. Well, if you're going to go into a premises, so if you're going into a building or a premises, that's there's definitions there. That's for a warrant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, how deep do you want to get in the legalities,
It's,
mate?
well, yeah, it was just one of the ones because the other legislation actually has it as a private premise. Like if you can actually sit there in your car and drink if you want within the 8K or whatever it is of a town under the Liquor Act because it's
Yeah.
considered a premises. So yeah, but and like so there's little tricks like that to learn. And look, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that I'm accurate there.
Oh mate, you could be. I would have to look it up. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
It's
Yeah.
something that kinda caught my eye, I think, when I started working with, Mr. Kenny Bradshaw.
Oh
Um,
no, it definitely is for 120C. It's most definitely a public
yep,
place. You're
yep.
but I mean, it's sorry, no. If the vehicle is in a public place, we can search it
It's a
under
yeah, that's
120C, but
right.
the vehicle itself is not considered a public place yet.
Mm,
So yeah, no,
that's right.
it's all a bit funny, and there's a lot of definitions to that. But yeah, it's that yeah, that real need to understand that. But the thing is that I really want to put across is just study what you need to study to pass the exams, but really absorb the practicalities. Put it into and this is what I never did much, and I don't think any of us did because we didn't really have anyone saying it to us. Was put this into the perspective of you're doing this on the ground. Like, what are you
Yep,
trying to achieve? You're on the ground here. Once you're out of the college, I mean, everyone makes a big deal of the college, and yeah, sure, the college is a big deal because it's the entry point. It's like speaking to, I've had a yarn to a couple of blokes who are in the Special Air Service Regiment in Australia, and the first question everyone asks them is, "Oh, geez, how'd you find selection?" And he said, "Mate, selection was the easiest part of being in the whole show."
mm,
He said, "Everyone makes out selection to be this bigger, bigger than men. bigger than anything. It was the fact of the matter is, once you're in the regiment, everything you do is hard. And
Yeah,
it's like that. It's like the college. I mean, it's just an example. It's not like that, but you go through the police college, and then everything you do after that is real. Like the police college just takes you off the street and trains you to be a police officer. You
yeah.
then hit the ground, and then it's real bullets, it's real people, it's real blood, it's real everything, mate. It's real court cases.
I think,
So,
yeah. In saying that, mate, there was one thing, and I found difficult at the college. The fact is, when they got us to do a scenario, or even when they got us to do the one or two files or whatever it was supposed to be, we had to make it up, and it's
yeah,
harder to make it up than it is to go to a job and then just report back on what the job was.
yeah, that's right. The information's all there. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, that was yeah, so that was one of the things. But mate, how about we move on to the second question? Now
yeah.
this one's directed at you. How did you find? Because of course I don't. Well, I haven't got any kids that I know about.
Oh,
But
there'd have to be some, Schultzy. There'd have to be. There'd have to be. I've heard about your drunken escapades. There would have to be a stray child there somewhere.
But even there was even some sober ones, I think. Um, but just being a dad while pursuing a policing career. So, mate, do you want to
Yeah,
do you want to talk about that one?
yeah, no, I can do for sure. Look, I became a dad in 2014, and you got to remember, I joined the police force 7 years before that, and I left in 2021, 22. So, um, I was a young and uninhibited whippersnapping constable with no children. I was married pretty early on. I got married 2.5 years into my career, but we still had no kids until 2014. Um, as a dad from 2014 on, the big thing is you're just not there very much. It is a bit tricky with kids in that you sort of still need to establish your reputation in the police force as a goer and all the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is, I really love this. I coined this term and I'm really proud of it. You've got to live for the people who are going to cry at your funeral.
Yeah,
So, not the people who are going to turn up. Because if you're the commissioner of police, I think I've said this before. If you're the commissioner of police, yeah, heaps of people are going to turn up to your funeral and they're going to stand around in their ties and get their photos taken and blah, blah, blah. But they're not necessarily going to be crying. They just need to be seen because you're an important person in the police force or whatever. But your wife and your children and your family and your mum and your dad, and if they're still around, those people, those really close family members, they're the ones who are going to cry at your funeral. Well, they're the ones you should live your life for. And don't get me wrong, you can balance it. It's going to be tricky to balance that policing with family because policing is very consuming. It's not a normal job. It's something that really does consume a lot of your time and a lot of your mind. The big thing, especially starting off, is that you're going to be hitting some really steep learning curves, and you're going to be seeing really traumatic stuff for the first time, and you're already a father. Like you've been a dad for a long time, whereas I was already a cop when I became a dad. So I think you need to always prioritize family and always prioritize the kids, and it might be that that's just the way it is, and um, you just have to prioritize your family, and as a result, you don't necessarily do detective training, and you don't do whatever else, or it might be that you do, and you can manage that further down the track. But it's going to be a way up. There's going to be times where your family just has to come first, and there's other times where there's going to be a major job on. It's going to be, oh, geez, kids, I'm sorry, I'm rostered on Christmas Day. I just can't get out. I can't get leave. So you and mum are going to have to go on leave down and see grandma and grandpa because I have to stay and I have to work, and that's just life. That's what policing is. So
yeah, yeah, mate.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Emma brought up a really good point. Just so like last week as well. Also, get to know the police families and all that sort of stuff because it's a support network for your kids and having other friends who are, I suppose, police children and wives or husbands that can actually, I suppose, you've got that connection there, and so it creates a better understanding. You don't. I think it's important that the partners don't try and shield yourself away from the job. In a sense of, you got to get involved. I mean, our the police club was really good back in the day. Our Catherine Police Club had a children's play area down the back. Or
Oh, mate, there were kids there. Three out of the 3 nights of the week, there were bloody 15, 20 kids playing in the back of the police club. It was very family orientated.
that's right, and I think that helped a lot with the camaraderie,
Yeah, it did.
and it helped, and with the mental health as well. Um, so all that stuff is very, very important, and I think that is one. If I saw one thing coming back into the police, I would love to see those days when, say, a Friday night, our police club was packed, and it wasn't just stupid, drunken idiots. Sometimes that did happen later on. However, for the majority of the night, it was actually families catching
Yeah,
up, having a drink, and debriefing together as a massive group, and the kids got to play together. Yeah, I've got great fond memories of those days. I didn't have any kids at the time, but it was just so family orientated, and it's something that's been lost. And look, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to stick it to those bloody senior cops who wanted to get rid of the police clubs. A big fuck you. So, um,
tell us what you reckon, Schultzy.
yeah,
No, I agree, mate. I agree. I agree. There's a lot to be said for that. It's really important for mental health stuff. But yeah, no, look, I think the big one there is it's going to be a balance. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be tricky at times. But that's like, yeah, that is what it is. So,
yeah, that's right.
mm,
But I think that's really good advice, Damo.
mm,
It's yeah, you're just going to have to prioritize, and it will be hard. There's no two ways. I mean, I never had kids, but I lived my life was policing. I lived the job. I went, and being out bush, that's all I did. But to run those two stations, I mean, my family used to come and visit, and they never used to get to see me.
yeah.
Um,
Well, mate, we were very similar in those early days because we had partners, but we didn't have children, and
mm,
we were fanatical and free. Like we just worked. If there was overtime going, we were doing it. If there
oh
was
yeah,
if there was relief work, we were doing it. If there was
yeah.
a bloody major jobs going, we were on. It was. I remember that. It was cool, like, because it was all new and it was all sexy, and we're just into it, and it was good good dudes. You're working with good people, and there was a good laugh all the time. And some of the jobs were pretty intense, and some of the work out in the bush was it was all brand new and wild. And you come back with all this new knowledge, and yeah, it was fantastic. But it it would have been great for family life. So
No,
yeah,
but I think, like, I look back at my police career, and and we fit so much into that short period of time. When you look at a whole lifespan, like, the stories. I mean, we've been doing 65 episodes, I think.
yeah,
This one, and the stories are just never ending. Like, the amount of stuff we fit into that short period of time was phenomenal. And because we put our hand up to do the overtime. We did the hand, we went out bush, we went out relieving, we went out and did all that sort of stuff. And a lot of those you worked around the clock as well. Yeah, I mean, family and domestic violence unit, I was working 12, 14-hour days a lot of the time. And like you in crime, um, it just, yeah. It's not like you're doing an 8 to 4 and then you go home. You don't.
well, you just don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And then the other thing was that sometimes there was like a really good lunchtime, like the Friday afternoons at Tennant Creek when you used to come down. So, Schultzy will be here this afternoon. He's planning to be here about midday so that once we knock off. But you're in the job, mate. You understood that you might turn up at midday and we're like, brother,
Yeah.
we ain't going anywhere for a few hours, and there's no point you sitting by yourself drinking. So why don't you come in here and grab a few statements as we've spoken about before?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just here's your cost code, champ. Jump in
Yeah.
there in plain clothes. Maybe go and take your shorts off and your thongs off and put some long pants and some boots on and come back.
I
But that's okay.
reckon
And
actually.
then all of a sudden, yeah, I mean, I still laughed my ass off at the superintendent, just instantly approved it. So
Yeah.
Schultzy's come down for a big piss up all weekend, but he's here now and we're not finished yet. Any chance he can do overtime? Yeah, approved.
Yeah. Mate, I reckon we should probably actually look into it. I reckon I'd have the highest amount of overtime in Tennant Creek for not actually being ever
Not
gazetted.
even posted to Southern Command.
That's
Mate,
right.
currently working in Northern Command, coming down to catch up with his mate to literally scull metric tons of alcohol and tell lies basically around a campfire. And he's ended up doing what, about 12 hours overtime?
Yeah, that's right.
Bloody hell. Yeah. Ah, they're good times, mate. Good times.
They were excellent times.
Yeah.
Hey, look, and for everybody listening, we did find time for drinks in and around the crime, but it was good, mate. The fact is also you're working with a great bunch of blokes like you guys and the team down there in Tennant Creek. It was just, it was fun as well.
Yeah, you had to be fun because it was so busy and there were so few of you. Like, you got to remember, Tennant Creek. Tennant Creek's a bit tragic. It's a town of 1,500 people or thereabouts, or maybe up to maximum 3,000 people.
Yeah,
They had 50 odd police officers, general duties, uniformed police, ranging right through from superintendents down to probationary constables, police auxiliaries working in a 24-hour watch house that had multiple cells. There was a CIB unit of 3 people and a 2 or 3 person domestic and family violence unit in a town of 1,500 to 3,000 people. It's just insane.
it's
That's
nuts.
the workload. That's how busy it was. And the fact was, you were still busy. You were short staffed a lot of the time because you got to remember, everyone's got to go on leave and everyone's got to, not everyone's a frontline cop. There's all kinds of little jobs that get filled in there. And yeah, no, it was very, very hectic. But as a result, you had a really close knit, pretty cool little crew. And
Yeah,
we did a lot of work there, and we had a lot of laughs. And I've belly laughed so hard in that office, it's not funny. I've walked in there and shut the door behind me and had a moment by myself and just bawled my eyes out too. So, and
yeah.
everything in between, that's just how those offices are. But yeah, no, yeah, I've got some really fond memories of those places. Tennant Creek was really good because it was so personal. It was you. It was you and your mates, and your immediate mates, and there was only a
Yeah.
handful of you, and we got amazing things done.
And it's got a great police club.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, really
Yeah.
cool. Really cool. Well, it made the whole community used to end up there.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right. It
yeah,
was really community orientated.
yeah,
Actually, mate, I was just going to put it in perspective. If you look at, so when I was actually out at Ramangini itself had about close to 1,000 people. Millingimby used to have about 1,500 or 1,600. So you're looking, it's probably ranging between what Tennant Creek is, and we had 4 cops.
yeah.
Take alcohol out of the equation, and look at the difference.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's right.
So, mind you, we were busy for 4 cops, but
Yeah,
yeah, it just shows the difference.
yeah. No, it was a show.
Oh,
Well,
that's
mate, I don't think we have to flog horses for too much longer.
no, no, mate. I think that's pretty good. We've answered the questions, and like
Mm.
Damo said right at the start, like get in contact with us. Send us you comment on Facebook or send us a message and let us know what you think or any questions you have. Because we're willing to answer them for you. We're not constrained by anything, are we, Damo?
No, no, no. Maybe just our personal professionality, but that's about it.
Yep.
Um, Professionalism. I don't think professionality is even a word.
No, it's not. But
Yeah,
yeah,
not
well,
to worry.
not that I know, mate. I'd have to check with Miriam on that one. But
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, mate, that's really good. But all the best. Get in touch. Let us know. We want to hear what you want to know about. Yeah, and we'll go from there.
Yep, definitely. All right, mate. Well, we'll see you all next week.
All the best.